Okay. I got some WNBA news. I'm reading this article, courtesy of the never heard the Marcol Marca. Go check out that article for yourself. Um, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark causes the WNBA to lose $40 million. Allow your boy to explain. They reduced 12 million from losses. Original estimate was 52 million that the WNBA lost. Okay. For most people, the arrival of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese to the WNBA meant that the quality of the sport increased, and they are not wrong. It did. However, the New York Post claims that the league is about to have a suffering season. Okay, since the two superstars are great and merchandise viewership has gone up, for an example, I don't know why this article was cut off short. So, anywho, I can't do anything about that. But then why is the league and their expenses is beginning to come up to the figure of $40 million with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese? So, and this is what I was talking about since day one, since the arrival of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Rivalries is like sexism to sports. It brings the sexy back to a lot of sports out there. If you don't have rivalries, well, first of all, if you don't have talent, if you don't have popular, well, people that the fans consider popular, and if you don't have rivalries, then no one's not going to watch your sport. Okay, talent plays a huge part, but star power is a greater point. If you don't have a league with a bunch of stars and even greater stars, no one's not going to pay attention to your league. And that was the point I was making in the beginning when everyone was, putting Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and this is more so for the WNBA players in the past. Weatherspoon, a lot of them are not speaking very highly of Caitlin Clark, and they considered Angel Reese one of them. And they're sort of the rebels against the idealism that people are drawn to Caitlin Clark. Casual fans who didn't even care about the WNBA a year ago, 2 years ago, didn't even know it existed 3 years ago, are now arriving into these arenas to witness Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark to the WNBA, and I'm not talking about talent, okay? Just bear with your boy. Caitlin Clark to the WNBA is like LeBron James to the NBA. LeBron James, even though he's the most talented, gifted basketball player on the face of this loving earth, the LeBron James effect has an increased positively and negatively towards him as well as the NBA. A lot of people are drawn because they either love LeBron James or they hate LeBron James. But either way, they're continuing to still watch LeBron James. And this could play a huge demographic and a huge part of the WNBA. You have people that love Caitlin Clark, and you have people that can't stand Caitlin Clark. Now, I feel like people, I don't want to use the word hate, but there are some fans out there, when Caitlin Clark comes to your town, you're going to boo because she's on the opposing team. Of course you're going to boo. But there are a lot of people out there in the media world. There's a lot of former athletes, current athletes of the W that are making these press runs, these media runs, and they don't speak too glowingly or highly of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is not a bum off the street. She is incredibly talented. All right. And I understand that if you're a fan of another team, I can understand you booing Caitlin Clark, hoping that Caitlin Clark doesn't have a good game so your team could win. I get that part. But there is an increased group of people, mostly former WNBA players, that believe that Caitlin Clark hasn't went up through the rankings. She didn't take her lumps and bruises. And these people feel like Caitlin Clark is being protected by social media as well as sports media. Understand, when Michael Jeffrey Jordan came into the into the NBA, there was, there was a huge bias for and against Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And social media was not is what it is today. And now when you got LeBron James and so the popularity of social media, there's fans that are for LeBron James, there's fans against LeBron James. I will say the media is tamed in these times versus back in the day when Michael Jordan was entering the court. A lot of people feel like Michael Jordan got the benefit of a doubt with a large portion of the media. There was a lot of media personalities that didn't have a relationship with Michael Jordan, and they will make these sensational articles. They didn't have to placate to Michael Jordan because the media back then, wasn't lovely-dovely with the athletes. They were sort of in line with the organization and with the owners. Now, if you're a likable athlete, that plays a huge part with your relationship with the media. And a lot of people feel like back then was easy to tame the media. No, it wasn't, because you didn't have social media. You didn't have a lot of athletes having their own platforms, having their own media companies. You didn't have athletes, having relationships with the media, and how the media will make stories and create articles and create noise to benefit that particular athlete so they can keep that relationship with that particular athlete. That did not exist when Michael Jordan was in the league, when Kobe Bean Bryant was in the league, God rest his soul. I feel like the media is more tame now, and the media is more controlled now by a lot of athletes. If you want these athletes to continue to do your podcasts and do interviews and do press runs and things of that nature, you have to have a cultural relationship with those players. I'll be honest with you, if Stephen A. Smith didn't have First Take and he was just a regular correspondent, he would have a difficult time dealing with today's athletes. And you started to see in the beginning of LeBron James how he had a great relationship with LeBron James early on. But when LeBron James, got his legs in to the media side of things, and he couldn't control or dictate what Stephen A. Smith can say on television, that's when that relationship kind of went sour. But going back to the WNBA, sometimes they shoot their own foot. It doesn't matter how you get the popularity. It doesn't matter how you get the audience to watch your game. If the audience is solely coming into your league because they're huge Caitlin Clark fans, why can't you just simply ride the wave? If fans are coming and by droves to watch your league because the talent is at an all-time high, then why can't you ride that particular wave? There are many ways to skin a cat. And I felt like for the most part, a lot of these media personalities in the WNBA, I'm not saying the majority, but a lot of them were not too supportive of the Caitlin Clark effect. And they was trying to push this narrative of, well, it's just not Caitlin Clark. There are other females in the WNBA that is making the WNBA popular. Don't you think it's a coincidence that The only time the WNBA has had this much attention, had this many eyeballs, had this many attendance was when Caitlin Clark, first year in the WNBA. How come that never happened 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And I always said that I like the WNBA. I want to see a day where the WNBA supports itself, where it doesn't need the backing, the financial backing of the NBA, where the WNBA can have this, it can be its own entity, where the WNBA can have its own television contract. You know, where the WNBA can showcase their stars. So, to me, people get this twisted about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, trying to put them against one another. If your league, if people are coming to your league because they like Caitlin Clark, why you can't welcome that? If people are coming to your league because the talent is getting better, how come you can't welcome that? If people are coming to your league because of a lot of a particular WNBA star that they follow on social media, why can't you support that? And it goes back to the Angel Reese comment about, Angel Reese is, it's not real. It's got her hands all over the place when you're talking about, her popularity and making money. There's, like I said, there's more ways to skin a cat. Angel Reese is doing a podcast. Angel Reese is going on, going to modeling events. Angel Reese is going to Wildin' Out. Angel Reese is doing a lot of other things besides basketball. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's manageable. But my thing of it is, I've seen the best, Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal could have had way more titles than what he currently has right now. Shaquille O'Neal will be in countless discussions of the GOAT conversation if Shaquille O'Neal would have won 5 championships. But Shaquille O'Neal is never in those conversations. Now, Shaquille O'Neal was the most dominant player, but what does dominant means ultimately? That you was more physical than your opponents? And people don't talk about the talent Shaquille O'Neal had, particularly when we were with the Orlando Magic. And I gave countless stories of Shaquille O'Neal back in the Orlando Magic days. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal was a force not to be reckoned with. So, and a lot of people saw that, if Shaquille O'Neal would have concentrated on just basketball and quit worrying about the rap albums and television shows and movies and being an entrepreneur. And I'm not saying that, what he did ultimately was wrong, but you can see the frustration of Shaquille O'Neal when he talks about Shaquille O'Neal. How he said, if I would have spent more time in the gym, if I would have ate better, if I would have perfected my craft, I would be in these conversations as well. I would have more titles and I would be in these conversations as well. You can hear it in Shaquille O'Neal's voice. Like he has a small sense of regret. So, but I'm pretty sure he likes where he is now. He's almost a billionaire. He might be a billionaire. I don't know. He owns several businesses. He's still a great spokesperson. A lot of media companies like to work with Shaquille O'Neal. But to me, I feel like Shaquille O'Neal, when he talks about when he was in his prime, he felt like he left a lot of stuff on the table, on the cutting room floor, that if he had to do it all over again, he would do things differently. So I don't want that to be Angel Reese, where you're focusing on a lot of stuff and you're still focusing on basketball, but you don't spend a lot of time in basketball to perfect your craft. Angel Reese feels like her athleticism is going to carry her through the WNBA, and it just doesn't work that way. Your athleticism has an expiration date. And you're not going to be able to do the things you were doing in your first 3 years of the WNBA versus your last 3 years of the WNBA. It's a huge difference. But you give up a lot quickly when you have a successful podcast and you're modeling and you're on television shows, you're doing ads, you're featured in movies and things of that nature. You start saying to yourself, like, I really don't need the WNBA because I got all these other facets. And I just don't want Angel Reese, when it's all said and done, and you can't turn the clock backwards, sitting on the couch like Shaquille O'Neal in an interview 15, 20 years from now going, you know what? If I did things differently, I would focus more on basketball. But, that's Angel Reese. That's her decision. She's happy to do whatever she wants to do, long as she's happy with her decision. You don't have buyer's remorse. Like Shaquille O'Neal had. Kevin Durant, even though he feels like, well, I got my 2 titles at Golden State, I'm good. But when Kevin Durant is no longer Kevin Durant and basketball is coming to an end of the road and he sits at home, retired 2-3 years down the road, I think he's going to come to this conclusion after when he can no longer do basketball. He's going to come to the conclusion and to this fork road of, damn, if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have stayed with the Golden State Warriors. So, yeah. That's all I got. Guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.